Hi everyone. My name is Raisa Cole and I'm part of the Global Facilitation team. And I just want to take this opportunity to apologize for all the technical problems that we faced. As you all know, this is a prototype for us all, and so we're all learning from each other. And yes, we are ready to start now on our webinar for leadership issues in urban challenges. I see that everyone has started to plot where they are in the world. Thank you for that. I see that most people are in Europe, but our speaker today, Josette Cole, is in Africa, and I think she's represented there. And then we have quite a good mix of participants today. And so if you haven't already done so, I'd like to invite you to just stake your claim and say where you are in the world today. Just a few other sort of admin announcements. This MOOC is participatory, and we would like to encourage participants to let us know what you think by using the different SABA tools. And so you can have a little smiley face, you can give us applause. If you agree with what we are saying, then please use your little green check mark, and maybe you can all give me an indication to see if these tools are working for you. Maybe play with them a little bit and let me know that you are here with me. Okay, so our agenda for today is that we've done our check-in, and then we will do a brief introduction of our kind of thought leaders from around the world today. And then we will have a discussion between our two speakers, and then at the end we will have a question and answer session with all of you. And so I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to use the chat and drop us questions if you have any. This is a very interesting topic today, and so I'm sure we will have lots of questions and comments from the participants. So if you have any, please drop them in the chat, and we will answer them in our Q&A session. Okay, so let me introduce you to our kind of thought leaders from around the world. We have Mr. Peter Gulch, who is the director of the Mundus Urbano Master's Program at the Technical University of Darmstadt. And that is in Germany. And we have Josette Cole, who is the director of Development Action Group, which is a housing and land rights NGO in South Africa, in Cape Town, South Africa. And I would like to take this opportunity to hand over to Peter Gulch, who will then introduce himself and ask the question, or answer the question rather, of why or what led you to a career in urban development. Peter, I hand the mic over to you.
Hello, this is Peter. It's a great honor for me to join all of you today. It is, of course, a new format to learn and to explore that creates challenges in the beginning. I hope all of you can understand me well. I am a trained architect. This is my background, but I was not satisfied only to be an architect. As an architect, I always ask myself um, about the users of the buildings I am going to design, and about the society, and how does the society and the built structures relate to each other and interact. And then I was very interested in the question of so-called production of space. Then after having the opportunity to study urban planning with Professor Saskia Sassen, who maybe some of you know for her global city theories and books, after um, diving into this thinking, I never left again, and I became an urban thinker, an urbanist, an urban planner, and I enjoy um, as much thinking and as much academic work, and I also pretty much enjoy interacting with practice, with international organizations, and thinking about alternative neighborhoods, alternative cities, and making proposals for changes. So, in this role, um, after 10 years of work, I was asked to become the director of the Mundus Urbano program at TU Darmstadt. And this is a small and very innovative program that wants to create new urban experts because we think uh, um, given the new kind of challenges that we have in urban development today, the challenges that I will describe a little bit later, it's not enough anymore to have very good disciplines, water engineers, transport engineers, designers, social experts, but we need to find new ways to collaborate among the different experts. So the program tries to create an interdisciplinary breed of urban practitioners and urban academics. And since the program is so, in my opinion, very innovative and the group of students is very interesting, they come from 20 different countries and they have different backgrounds from sociology, law to architecture. It's really as much learning for me to interact with this group of students, then hopefully also it is interesting and productive for the students. Uh, Let me now, after this introduction, let me uh, introduce some of the trends and opportunities I see in urban development. Um, so you see in the slide that Raisa selected here, this shows really the rise of population. So the first message is that we have to look at trends today worldwide. It is very important for all leaders and for all people involved in change. And the slide shows that the change today in the world is happening in the developing countries, less developed countries. The slide says uh, in 2000 we had 6.1 billion people, we will have another population rise until in the next maybe 50 or 60 years, close to 2100, and we will have more than 10 billion people then in the world. And what is also very important to know that of these 10 billion people, 7 billion and more will be living in cities. So we really have to understand and appreciate this trend that cannot be reversed really, and that tradition normally is in developing aid, in the international collaboration, that the urbanization was seen as a problem for a long time. Politicians and urban planners, they tried to keep the population in the rural areas, um, but if we can really confirm this prognosis that more than 70% of people will live in cities in foreseeable future. And so we have to take it as a trend, and we have to also to identify not only the problems but also the opportunities, because cities are much denser than compared to other settlements. Cities are much more efficient. Of course, these 11 or 12 billion people, they will create many problems and pollution and violence and maybe wars, conflicts, and create risks. But in a comparatively in a setting, the urban setting will be comparatively efficient as compared to other urban patterns and settlement patterns. So what is also very important to acknowledge that the challenge we have today is the dynamic change, the rapid change. So we go from, if you look in the 1950s, we go from less than 2 billion people worldwide to 10 and more billion people in 2100. So it's in a very short time, a very huge change. People go from agriculture to IT technologies in only 2 generations. The transformation is so fast that we cannot adapt the structures that we have, the governance and other structures, to deal with the results of this transformation. As a scientist, I try to analyze urban change, but it needs me a certain time. For example, I need to go for 3 months to go to a field study. And after I have the results from the field study, already the object that I study, the different cities and case studies, they changed again. So I cannot keep up in analyzing the change because it is happening so fast. The similar kind of problem is that in in many developing contexts, there is decentralization going on, which is a good process, but the smaller cities and the smaller municipalities, they don't have the capacities to deal with the decentralization, to resolve the technical problems, to resolve the social problems, because there is not enough staff and enough knowledge and enough capacity there. It's just a process that is taking time, but during this time it takes, the city is growing more, there is more dynamic change, there is more transformation. So this is the challenge I think we have today. And I think we don't have enough innovation how to resolve this challenge. We think in a more or less traditional way as city planners how to plan cities, but we don't think about this dynamic change. So because I talked quite a lot, I think I will only refer to the other two slides. I hope you can see them. I was talking about trends, and one of the trends we have really seen also in the last 30 or 40 years is the trends of privatization. In the After the Second World War, mainly in the northern sphere of the world, in the industrialized countries, we used to have a very strong state, a so-called Keynesian state, and since the 70s, we have more deregulation. The Many municipalities, many cities complain that they also don't have enough money. The private sector is playing a bigger and bigger role. We have more stronger and more important public-private partnerships. Many things are trying to be resolved by the private sector. So the impact and the relevance of the private sector is bigger as a trend. And there is also a strong belief in the capacities and in the efficiencies of resolving things by the private sector. When you think about the deregulation of some services or the transfer of state-owned enterprises to private enterprises, etc. And when you think globally, you also see that the internationally working companies and corporates, sometimes they have a huge capacity and a huge power of also to make change. Many international companies, they produce their products in different countries. Maybe if you take cars, the wheels are produced in one country, the metal parts in a second country, and the electronic parts in many other countries. So the products we have are assembled worldwide globally, and these firms have established structures that can steer this production process and also steer the innovation. So somehow they are more advanced than traditional national governments. And we need to balance this dynamics of the private sector globally also with international organizations and institutions that can um, balance this process and maybe regulate this process more. There is more, of course, much more to say about the private sector and privatization, but again, the main point is we have to embrace and we have to take into consideration that we need to know the important trends of the contemporary time, like urbanization, like privatization. Another trend that we don't have a slide about is, um, for example, the technological change and the acceleration and the speed of things we have today. That also we need to understand. An important thing, also we could name it almost a trend is, but the important problem we have as a result of some of the trends is inequality, increasing inequality. This slide shows you the inequality levels in some African cities, and especially in South Africa, but also in some other African cities, there is a huge development going on, as we all know. And this also means, in this context of private economy and private market, that there are huge differences between rich and poor, and there are some observations that when the differences between rich and poor become too big, that this is really a risk for civil society and for freedom and for peaceful civil society. And here is a graphic made by UN Habitat or UNDP, and the red line they are drawing here at the Gini coefficient of 0.4. The Gini coefficient is a measure of inequality. The red line means anything that is above the red line means in these cities we have a risk of civil war, like it happened in Cairo or in other North African countries. And it says, for example, for all the South African cities that we have a risk of civil unrest and of civil war in these cities. So we have to be very glad that there are apparently some other mechanisms that prevent to have the civil war in sub-Saharan Africa. Briefly to conclude, uh, after analyzing all these trends, especially in urban development, I have done also some work with my students. In urban development, one of our conclusions was that it does not make much sense when you take all the population growth and the urbanization. It does not make much sense to make only new towns and satellite cities and more or less, let's say, forget about the older cities and the existing cities. Our conclusion, which I cannot explore in detail now because the time is too short, is that it makes more sense to take the existing cities and grow and develop these. There may be some few instances where we have to plan new cities, but in most of the instances, we take the existing cities. And this graphic, the Edian graphic, is a proposal of about around 30 principles how to make good neighborhoods, because we believe that good neighborhoods are the main element of urban development, of urban growth. And if we have the good principles for them, they can be also, probably, hopefully, they can inspire private urban developments and governments that make new neighborhoods. Okay, having said that, I think I have talked enough, and I want to give my voice to Josette or to Reiter. And I thank you for the moment, and I really look forward for the discussion and for your question. Thanks a lot.
Hi, so thank you so much, Peter, for your comprehensive introduction into urban development and urban studies in general.